So your lease is where everything begins. And so you want to make sure that it clearly identifies who the participants are, specifically who the landlord is. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Ernie, that's dumb. But you'd be surprised how many people get this part wrong. And so we're going to talk about holding companies, we're going to talk about management companies, we're going to talk about real estate agents, and maybe now things are starting to get a little clear as to how we can make mistakes. So when we designate a landlord, it doesn't matter who necessarily signs the lease, because an agent can sign a lease on behalf of a landlord, but that agent may not be the landlord. For purposes of the landlord, it's important that the contract essentially state who is the one in charge. And so, for example, if you have a real estate agent and the real estate agent found the tenant and the real estate agent drafted the agreement and the real estate agent took the first month's rent and the deposit, but isn't going to manage the rental unit, well then doesn't sound like they're the landlord. And maybe their name should not appear anywhere in that contract except maybe as the agent. And so sometimes people get all mixed up and they don't understand their own form, and they'll put the real estate agent's name in place of the landlord. But that real estate agent isn't running anything. That could cause problems down the line, particularly if the tenant challenges a petition in which I'm being sued by X, but Y is the name that appears on my lease. I don't know who X is, and they may have a very valid claim. So get these things straight. If a property management company is collecting rent, in charge of repairs, sending out notices, you may have an agreement as the owner of the property that the property management company moves forward as the landlord. Happens all the time. And so the question is, does your agreement explain that in the event of the filing of a lawsuit, that if their name appears as the landlord, their name appears in the petition as the landlord, and any judgment award they get gets awarded to them in that capacity. Now they can disclose in that petition that they serve as a landlord for X, but I know sometimes owners don't want any mention of their names in an eviction petition. And so you have to work out very clearly with your property management company how that issue is going to be resolved. And then finally, what happens if I'm managing my own property, but I decided to put my property in the name of my holding company? I opened up Garcia Housing 123 LLC. And so I did this because, number one, I don't want to intermingle my commercial assets with my personal assets. But number two, should there ever be a lawsuit raised against me, the landlord, I would prefer that Garcia, the holding company, be sued and not this Garcia in his individual capacity. So if you want to avoid that and you've set up a holding company to collect rent and handle repairs and handle notices and things like that, well, then it makes sense to put them as the landlord, and this could serve as a good shield between you personally and you as a commercial entity. And so if this blows your mind and you're way more confused now than you were at the beginning of this video, you need to sit down and talk to somebody about the way that your property is managed, because you want your lease to be clear, but you also want it to work within your goals and the path that you set for yourself. If you are unclear as to that presently, if your lease doesn't match the deed, and the deed doesn't match what you thought you were doing, or your lease, or how you're advertising yourself. I mean, some people get themselves into so much trouble because they're just not in sync. Get one game plan and use that plan, and you'll avoid problems, I promise. All right, William. Have a good day. So send me your questions. If you've got questions about landlord-tenant law and there's something you're a little shaky on or something you just need a little clarification, post something in our Facebook group. Shoot me an email at ernie.garcia@attorneyeg.com. It's right there. Or post something in our Facebook group. If you're not a member yet, join our Facebook group. We look forward to you. If you look on Facebook, we are Texas Landlords. Finally, if you want to call, that's our number. Feel free to call us, and we'll be happy to help in any way that we can. And so keep your questions coming. I'm happy to answer as many questions as I can. Bye.